we had access to some really good deals where we could money in, money out, and all of a sudden I had people saying to me, look, you find the deals and I'll find the money to fund the deals. We learned how to get creative with instalment contracts and assisted sales, exchange with delayed completions and all that kind of stuff. You know, they saw that we had the knowledge, that we had access to some really good deals, and as soon as we refinance we can pay that money back, but I'll keep coming with the money. We built up a portfolio pretty quickly, and then the crash happened.
People went crazy, and people that had no knowledge or skills. But now, looking back on our journey, I'm glad it happened.
Welcome to the Property Funding Podcast, the podcast with tips and lessons for property developers and landlords, helping them save time and money. Delighted today to be joined by Chris and Mary Selwood, the first husband and wife interviewers. So absolutely brilliant to have you here. So I'll give you a wee formal handshake.
Thank you.
Mary, good to see you again.
Good
Chris,
to see you,
very
David.
good to see you.
We're delighted to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll be looking forward to a good chat about all things property.
Yeah, and a bit of football maybe.
I have no doubt there'll be a bit of football thrown in, of course, sort of our shared passion for that, and we'll see how much Mary contributes to the football side, you know. So no doubt you could tell a few stories, Mary, from conversations in cars and all the rest of it. You can imagine. But no, absolutely brilliant to have you here. You obviously host what is the largest and probably the longest running property meet in Belfast. I'm assuming I'm right in saying that is the longest running?
Yeah, that's right.
The
Belfast
first.
Property Meet is the first
First
that
ever.
we're aware of.
Yeah.
We've been investing in property for 18 years, and it's the first property networking event that we're aware of. And unless there was one before that, I don't know. But certainly we've been running Belfast Property Meets since 2011, so we're in our 13th year. And yeah, there are others, but we as I say, we have been running the longest by quite some way, and we're certainly the biggest. I think we've 120 tickets booked for tonight's event so far, and probably a few more booking between now and 6:45 tonight. So.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if we knew each other before that, but I certainly went to among your very first ones in 2011. But I do think
Embarrassing.
No. Mary, you have not changed a bit, of course. Chris and I have got a little bit older.
Grayer.
He's got grey. That's because he's chairman of a football club, you see. I'm just a general manager, so I kept my hair okay. But something tells me we did talk back in about 06, 07 for some reason, but I could be wrong on that. But
Yeah,
certainly
we could,
2011.
we could have done. I didn't get out and about much as a property investor in those days, but certainly towards the end of the 2000s, I started to get more involved, and you know, starting to read books and going to events, and you know, obviously done a bit of property training, so I started getting myself out and about a wee bit more. But in the early days, no, I was sort of trying to figure it all out on my own, which is never a good way. So we sort of we made a lot of mistakes in property, and then went and spent money on education, which we should have done the other way around. But
whoever does,
Yeah.
whoever does. So I'm looking forward to getting into that about the education and the journey and that. But what we normally do to start off is a quick fire round. Okay, we don't let the guests know what's coming, so don't panic. It's not too bad. But it's a way of just letting the watchers and listeners understand you a bit better who you are and your likes and dislikes. So quick fire round, you literally just fire these quickly. We'll go with Mary first then, and one after the other you can give the answers. So first of all, favourite food?
Probably Thai. I love Thai food.
I would be a Thai food man too. Yeah. Maybe closely followed by Indian. I make a mean curry.
Okay.
So, but
He's a good cook.
Thai food certainly would be my favourite, because I can't master it. I've not been able to master Thai food as well as I've been able to master other things. But
Thai. So Thai, that's fine. Favourite film?
Forrest Gump for me.
Oh, I'm not a big film man at all.
Skip the Victory, no.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, one of those kind of films. I watched Schindler's List recently.
Yes.
I'd never seen it before, and and obviously Liam Neeson being the star man and a fellow Ballymena man.
Fellow Ballymena man is right.
Much better actor than I am, I have to say.
And probably more wealthy, if you don't mind me saying.
Yes.
More wealthy and more handsome, I would say too. Watched Schindler's List, having been to Krakow a few weeks beforehand, and that's why we watched it. Tried to watch it before we went, but we didn't. But that was quite touching. It was an amazing film. It's an amazing story, and when you've been there and you see actually what went on, and we were outside Schindler's factory, so
you had a first-hand experience.
Yeah, so the fact that I was there and I watched it probably meant a lot more to me. You know?
Okay, grand. Okay, favorite country? Any favorite country in the world you like to go to?
You travel more because of the Merchant Navy, so
yeah, nowhere exotic. Although I went to a place that very few people would have been to, Diego Garcia, in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They call it the footprint of freedom. It's I think it's got a bit of a controversial past, but I was there when I was in the Merchant Navy, and a small island, sort of directly south of the Seychelles and Mauritius and that.
Okay.
It's not somewhere you can go on holidays. It has to be said.
Right.
But beautiful place, you know, turquoise waters, white sands, palm trees. Not a lot of nightlife, it has to be said, but just a beautiful place. There's a lot of places I haven't been and I would like to go, but we like going to Spain. We like the food and we like the weather and stuff in Spain.
I think it's fair to say no one said that island before.
No, I would doubt many people will ever say it in any future podcast.
When you described it, it was like, because everything that Northern Ireland isn't.
Yes. It rains every day for 15 minutes in Diego Garcia, like a monsoon, and then it dries up. That's it. It just dries up as quick. It's sort of in that climate. But,
Sounds good. Okay. Favorite sport? Well, we'll go Mary first, but
that's a no-brainer for me.
I suppose, you know, I did a little bit of Irish dancing as a child, and now our daughter's 20, and she is an Irish dancer, and she's just came 6th in the world.
Wow, congratulations.
So, in the Irish dancing world, it's a big thing.
I was going to say
it's a huge thing.
Yeah, okay.
So we're very proud of her. And I suppose I follow that a lot.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. Yeah,
when you do it, it's in you. It's, I suppose, a bit like football. It's always in you.
In the blood. So I don't even need to ask you what your favourite sport is.
Yeah, it's football. No doubt.
The team, well, yours, well, you can't really say a team, just the Irish dancing team. In terms of team, obviously Ballymena United Football Club. Any other teams that you would follow or claim to follow?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up as a young boy, I went to see Glasgow Rangers quite a bit with family, and then, you know, Man United used to come to Belfast on a annual pre-season friendly. They usually played Linfield each year, and I went to see Man United, and it was just after the George Best time, so I didn't get to see him playing for Man United, but you know, Sammy McIlroy, David McCreary, those kind of players from Northern Ireland were starting to play for Man United at the time, so I became a United fan as well, and I've been following them for years. Since. It's not been so good recently. I was at the Carabao Cup final last season, 2023 at Wembley. First time at Wembley, but yeah, been to, you know, I had a season ticket at Old Trafford for a few years. Right. In the mid 2000s, when we had a team, we had a proper team.
Winning. Yeah.
You know, Rooney, Ronaldo, and Tevez up front. You know, what a front three.
Worth going to watch that.
Yeah. we you know, won the Champions League in that era and 3 league titles in a row. So yeah, I was at quite a lot of games at that time, and before that, and quite a few since, but maybe not as many. But yeah. United.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll do that there. Okay, sort of some like fun, controversial ones. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Oh, definitely Apple. And it was until 2 years ago. Everything was Android. Microsoft.
He changed.
And then I can't remember. I bought an iPad, and I thought, oh, this thing's brilliant. And then I got the iPhone, and I thought, this thing's brilliant too. It's even better than the iPad. And then I bought a MacBook Pro, and I thought, this is just like a Rolls Royce of computers. Although I had a problem with it a couple of weeks ago, it clogged up with memory, and
I see, there you are. That's why I stick the Android, Mary.
It just basically
was.
It was. it sort of dirtied itself, shall we say, and it wouldn't do anything. And I was getting some Apple support, and they said send us a screenshot. I couldn't even take a screenshot because there was no space to save it on the thing. So there was an issue with it kept synchronizing every time I deleted something, and the memory space filled up, so the whole computer sort of just slowed down, and but I've managed to resolve the issue. But no, quality.
Okay. If Brenda's listening to this, she'll be laughing at me complaining about one mistake with it or one shortcoming with it, because I break every phone I get.
The funny thing is that even though I'm Apple, I still use those. They're not Android products, but I still use Google Drive, and I still use like when what do you call it, PowerPoint and Excel and Word and stuff like that. So I'm not so much into the pages and the sheets and the other, I can't remember, Keynote. I'm not so much.
I know it's
into
hard
that.
when you go from one to the other, but
years of learning, and I try. I don't want to start again with that kind of stuff.
No, so I'm with you on that. Okay, here's the big controversial dividing one now. Marmite, like it or hate it?
Oh, hate it.
Don't even know if I've tried it, and that's because I don't know if I'd like it.
Well, obviously Mary doesn't put it on the food bill during the week, so you never had it. But you've obviously tried it and not like it. Awful. I'm sure it's the same for Bovril, is it?
Yes.
They're very similar.
Very.
Okay,
very,
so you're in the.
yeah,
I think, to be fair, you're in the larger camp of those that don't like it.
so.
I've interviewed, I think, 2 or 3 that absolutely love it.
Really?
Yeah, literally, they said smeared on toast.
Yeah.
No.
Small doses maybe.
Not
Dream car.
Oh, I'm not really materialistic about a car, really.
I can vouch for that.
Yes. No, it doesn't matter
You'll have to give
to
a good
me.
answer then.
Well, we drive a BMW X5, and
so
it's
not,
great.
that's nice.
It's a nice Jeep to drive, and it's fast and stuff like that. It's very comfortable,
Reliable.
very reliable. I'd like a Range Rover, and I've been toying with the idea of a Range Rover Sport over the last few years, but people keep telling me to stay away from them.
Right.
But every time I see them, I keep wanting to go towards them.
Right.
So, Range Rover Sport, or even a Vogue, the big beast. I've driven a 4.4 V8 a few times. It belongs to my friend, and they're a mean machine. So
nice. There you are. That's what you're going for. Okay, favorite property type. So HMO, mid terrace, detached, holiday homes, any type.
For me, small developments.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me,
yeah, we've
all day
done
long.
quite a few small blocks of 5 or 6 apartments, and you tend to be able to pick up a building that suits that for reasonable money, and usually they're worth about 3 times, possibly 4 times the amount at the back end if you can buy them in the right place.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on the standards you do them to, but that would be
the
small developments would be mine.
Good. If you could own a property in one location, anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Gosh.
Making you think, Mary, today, making you think.
Wow.
Making you dream big.
For me, overlooking the Thames in London.
Okay.
London's the best city in the world. There's
no
nowhere
doubt
can
about
beat
that,
London for everything. There are better places that have better things than London, but I think if you we're ticking boxes, London's got way more than anywhere else in the world. History, culture, the architecture, the sports teams, the sports arenas. London's got the food.
It is for everything that you'd want in a large city.
Theatreland.
Yeah. You mentioned the Thames there. I'd be very friendly with a guy called Tyler Newman. His father would be quite friendly with Kenny Bruce from Larne, obviously, Purple Bricks and Property. But he has a podcast, the Newman Rose podcast, which I did last year at some stage. But he has an apartment overlooking the Thames, just opposite the House of Parliament.
Wow.
So you're sitting doing your podcast, and over his shoulder is like the House of Parliament over the Thames.
Nice.
So that was a nice one, to be fair. Yeah, that was a good one. So, okay, well, that's the quick fire round. You'll be glad to know. Nothing too bad, nothing too sensational on that. But know a bit more about you. So, sort of nice and sort of briefly, high level, early life. Like where were you born, and anything sort of major through childhood, any standout events, and even maybe influences on early life that you can recall. So we'll go with yourself, Mary, first.
I'm one of 7, the oldest of 7, from a farming background, County Cavan, Southern Ireland. tough upbringing. You know, not a lot of money.
No silver spoons around.
Absolutely no silver spoons. You know, had to work on the farm. Influences as a child, probably my grandfather. My grandfather was a bit different. He was originally again from Cavan, but spent most of his life in America. Returned home, bought the farm, had the remainder of his children, but he would spend a lot of time with us and talk to us about life, and always, you know, you can do what you want, you know, just believe in yourself. And I suppose that's probably it all. Now, as an older person looking back, I appreciate he was probably before his time, and he stood out because he always dressed really well and always was smart and didn't care what other people thought of him. He had his opinion and that was it. So left home when I was 18 and went to Epsom in Surrey to do my nurse training. So I did 2 trainings. I did my learning disability training and I did my general, and that's where I met Chris in Epsom in Surrey. Returned home after a couple of years. I staffed there for a couple of years, returned home, moved around jobs because went back to nursing in Dublin, really didn't like it, missed the NHS.
Right, okay.
Funny people say that, missing the NHS, but I did really miss the NHS, but I missed, you know, the opportunities in the NHS, so I eventually got a job in the Royal in Belfast, and I worked there for 17 years until I left nursing 7 years ago.
Right, okay. Very good.
And the reason why I left nursing...
Almost 8 years ago.
Yeah, almost 8 in June, I think it is.
Right.
So in 2005 we started investing in property and found a different passion, I suppose. The passion for property grew and grew through learning, really, through learning and doing. And then I suppose property enabled us to have a little bit more money, and that then enabled me to cut back my hours in nursing. And then I had to take the final plunge and say, am I going to do this forever?
Very good, very good.
So I left 7 years ago, and I just love what I do now.
Yeah, so you
Really
had
love what I do now.
You know, property, success in property brings choices, which you were able to get to the point where you could say, do I stay on or do I not? And that's in many ways the big thing.
And I think for me, because I love people and I love helping people, obviously my nursing career, but now I've found that niche within property, because now I help people buy their own property and succeed in property. So I'm kind of doing the same thing but in a different field.
Yes. No, that's
so that's kind of
okay. No, that's good. And Chris, yourself then, early life?
Excuse me. Born in Ballymena, County Antrim. Lived there till I was 17. I think I went to first job. I worked in a Peugeot garage, and then I lived in I wouldn't say it was, how would I describe it, a real working class area. And I thought I need to get out of here and go somewhere else and, you know, get a better job and try and maybe do something for myself. I went to grammar school, but unfortunately left grammar school with very little in the way of qualifications because school didn't interest me.
Right.
I had the ability but not the commitment to school at the time. And I went to England, and as Mary said, I ended up in Epsom. I got a job working in a hospital. We both worked for the same health authority but in different hospitals, and we met in town, in Epsom town centre, and it was love at first sight, obviously.
Very good.
I don't think it was. That's a little porky.
That's another story for
another story for
a different podcast.
And you know, as Mary says, we ended up coming back. We got married in Cavan in 1996, so we're sort of married almost 28 years this year. Glad I got that one right. Early influences, I probably never thought about it at the time, but since then I look back with sort of a bit of affection with a couple of school teachers I had.
Okay.
I didn't do well at school, and I messed around. I did. I give a lot of teachers the run around, and
he's super intelligent. Absolutely super intelligent.
I sort of give the impression that I wasn't interested at
Yeah,
all. But
okay.
I liked learning, but I
Yeah.
wasn't committed to putting the effort
Yeah.
into doing exams. I didn't like the idea of having to remember stuff to do an exam.
Just to regurgitate it.
I'd rather have been judged on what I could do
Yeah.
rather than what I could write on a bit of paper at the end of 12 months. So I kind of give a lot of teachers the runaround. I got into a bit of bother, but there was a couple of teachers, one of them, the deputy headmaster, and I was never out of his office, and I used to think that man's got some patience with us. I spent more time in his office and his classroom, where I was probably in detention quite a lot of the time, and you kind of get to know people, and you're a bit more relaxed, and I sort of had a lot of respect for him at the time, the deputy head, Guy McCulloch, who went on to be big in the rugby world at Ballymena Rugby Club, and I met him recently, and I had a conversation with him, and he knew what I was doing in terms of the Ballymena United Football Club, and it was interesting that he sort of saw an ex-pupil and kept an eye and was able to engage with me on that level, and then there was another teacher at the time, Hector Dean. We used to have some great conversations about politics and sport and society in general. Back then, even as a 12, 13, 14-year-old.
So he's making you think. He was sort of
thinking more outside the box in terms of what you were actually doing. And funny, he was a Latin teacher, and I did okay at Latin, but I could never quite figure out why you would need to use it in future life. But
you're not the only young person had that question going through school. I can assure you.
So, but again, and I've met him at local Rotary clubs that have been. I've been a member of and been president of in the not too distant past, and it's funny how you go full circle and end up these people, you meet them further down the line, and they're still doing the things, and they're still involved, and they're still helping people, and just good people, and as I say, never really thought about it, but those people probably had an influence on me somewhere along the line.
No, it's good when our education system, and there are challenges in education, of course there are challenges in the health service, of course there are, but people overlook the positive side of it. I often say we obviously spent 5 years living in Papua New Guinea. When we were younger, Mum and Dad were missionaries, so when I hear people giving off about waiting an hour and a half in A&E, it's kind of like, if you're in the jungle somewhere and you have that problem, I mean, you ain't got to drive to half an hour to be seen in a couple hours time. It's everything's relative, and the same education, we've got problems education system, yes,
but we've got an education system,
and people genuinely in a lot of cases have a real, as your experience, have a real desire to make a difference, to help young people, to get them to think, to try and instill some sort of ethos into them, and I think that's so important for society.
And there's people's expectations have changed today. They kind of expect more and they demand more. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't willing to put more back in, but they want to take more out, and that's why society is the way it is. COVID hasn't helped with that either.
Correct.
Especially business people struggling to find staff, because COVID sort of put this idea in people's head that they can get more for very
less.
little. Jim Rohn talks about you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. You don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. And there's a lot of people don't bring very much value to the hour, but still want well paid for it.
No, that's true. So you're a Jim Rohn fan then,
big Jim Rohn fan.
Okay, I've through plenty of his stuff. The farm boy from Idaho.
Farm boy from Idaho.
So we'll come back to him, I'm sure, later on as well. So we'll no doubt football will come in at some point in our conversation, for sure, particularly just around successful people and doing multiple things and being productive in processes. So pivoting it a little bit towards property, was there a light bulb moment? Obviously you were doing what you're doing in the NHS. You were obviously, I think you had got as far as talking about the Merchant Navy, but you were, you want to just speak that just briefly, the Merchant Navy, how did you end up there?
I ended up in the Merchant Navy. Had been working elsewhere in Northern Ireland. When I met Mary, I ended up in learning disabilities and brought that back here. I ended up in working in learning disabilities and people with autism and stuff, and especially in units with challenging behaviour. Ended up in a private place didn't work out, but that's a story for another time. And I thought, what am I going to do?
Another podcast, Mary.
What am I going to do with my time now, or how am I going to earn an income? And I'd always wanted to work on the boats, and I'd applied for a cadetship when I was younger, and I failed a medical on the grounds of colour sight, because I was borderline colourblind. And when I decided to go back years later, that had escaped me at the time, and I went back and I actually passed the colour sight test.
Okay.
So sometimes I passed it and sometimes I failed it. So every couple of years it was like, no, sorry, you failed.
Right.
And then maybe 2 years later I could pass it. So
yeah.
it was so borderline. So that obviously there was some jobs I couldn't do, depending on what time or at which point I did my colour sight test. But I ended up in the Merchant Navy. And I went with different jobs. You know, we started off here, Stenaline, P&O, Seacat, some other companies, Northern Marine, Bibbies. And I ended up with different companies, and moving around didn't sit well with having a company pension, because there was no Merchant Navy pension by that point, or no newcomers were allowed to join the Merchant Navy pension scheme. And you know, being a deckhand and not being that qualified, I had an efficient deckhand certificate, and you know, got a bit of sea time and became a deckhand, a full deckhand, loading cargo and tying up the boats and maintaining firefighting equipment and stuff.
Okay.
I ended up having to move different companies to get the job. Oh, there's a better job, go there. So I was never in one place long enough to sort of add to a pension. So we bought property first of all for a pension, and it was like, buy it, and then in 30 years time it'll be worth at least twice or maybe three times what we paid for it. That was the idea, and then soon we realised you could make a bit of cash flow out of that. The moment for me was when I realised that you could buy something, fix it up, you know, buy it, refurbish. They call it BRRR nowadays. I didn't know what that was at the time. But it was just when you bought something, refinance, fix it up, and refinance it, and if you can pull all of your money back out, you've got the pot to go again. And that for me was just hang on a second.
That was that light bulb.
That was the light bulb
There's actually
moment
money here that can actually generate.
So, you know, having access to a bit of finance with the growth in properties, we built up a portfolio pretty quickly, and then the crash happened. And we had just spent a lot of money. Actually, the crash happened, and then we decided to invest in education. So, as I said earlier, did things
the wrong
way around.
Yeah,
you know, put the cart before the horse, and then we spent the money on the education, and just we met people and we learned stuff that just blew our minds and opened up new doors for us. And the rest is history, as they say. Unfortunately, we ended up with bad credit, you know, through the crash, and some other things happened to us, and we had to figure out ways of being really creative. We couldn't get mortgages, we couldn't really borrow money, to be fair, and that whole investing thing became difficult, but we learned how to get creative with option agreements and installment contracts and assisted sales and exchange with delayed completions and all that kind of stuff. And we used mortgage hosts, and we met other people that wanted to, you know, they saw that we had the knowledge, that we had access to some really good deals where we could money in, money out, and just, you know, rinse and repeat. And all of a sudden I had people saying to me, look, you find the deals and I'll find the money to fund the deals. And as soon as we refinance, we can pay that money back, but I'll keep coming with the money. Which was like, wow, this is
that's
unreal.
a property professional's dream in some respects. Flow of cash.
The flow of cash.
So go back to the credit crunch, and then, you know, we'll talk about how you've been so successful sort of since then, probably based on the lessons learned and the education. But if you go back pre-crash, because we, you know, like to be really real on these.
It probably was too easy, David.
That I think is a very interesting point, Mary. It's exactly an interesting point.
You know,
money was too easy got.
Money was far too easy got. Mortgages was far too easy got.
Credit card debt, personal loans.
You just people went crazy, and people that had no knowledge or skills or ability really to do it. Everyone was buying property, and I just feel that I'm glad our journey has happened. At the time I didn't. It was very painful, But now, looking back on our journey, I'm glad it happened because it made us stop,
Yes.
take stock of,
Yeah.
of what was happening.
Where you
Because
were.
we went and we bought property, buy-to-lets, all after each other, with no strategy in mind. It was just, that's all
Buy,
we
buy,
knew,
buy.
and that's all we did. But then the property crash hit. Thankfully, we didn't get caught up in buying property that was really expensive. So we had to take stock, get some property education, and start to do things differently.
Yeah. I'm assuming you're into negative equity in your portfolio.
Some of it.
Some of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we had gone from myself and Brenda having about a dozen properties at that point. So I'd like been involved in 2000 initially. Bought and sold about 26 properties in the first 18 months. Back then, in the good old days, we call it that. Rise up, we ended up with about 12 of myself and Brenda. So we went from about 1.6 million equity to negative equity in about 6 weeks. Painful.
Yeah.
That's a journey.
Yeah.
You know, now interest rates come down, and did that interest rates coming down help your situation as
it
well?
helped.
So you had a
Yeah.
portfolio
Yeah.
value drop, but your rental income was still pretty
Yeah,
strong.
we ended up in negative equity, and some of the properties we bought in the northeast of England, the prices never really
So
changed.
you were England as well as Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
You were doing both.
The,
Okay.
we sort of left Ballymena and went to the northeast of England whenever prices here. All of a sudden it dawned on me that, hang on a second, the banks are willing to lend you 130 grand and have a 550, 600 pound a month mortgage on a house that's only bringing in 400 quid.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, when I realised that this can't go on, I started looking somewhere else, and there was a bit more cash flow in the northeast of England. But it was very easy. We ended up with about a dozen. I remember one day sitting in the mess room on the boat, and somebody saying to me, "Oh, look at this headline: property prices about to crash." That was in the Express or something like that. We had a whole pile of papers. We just had all the papers that you could, from the Sun to the Times and everything in between. The Express says property prices about to crash, and the Mail said property prices continue to rise. And I'm like, which one do you believe?
On the same day.
Yeah, on the same day.
Yeah.
And shortly afterwards, of course, the backside fell out of the market. But as you say, interest rates went down, so we had negative equity. We weren't worried because all of a sudden, late 2008, early 2009, as the interest rates dropped, we had more and more cash flow. We had a mortgage. We had one mortgage was 5 pence a month, and we had £475 a month rent coming in. And I thought, I want to leave my job in the Merchant Navy. This is the opportunity, because the cash flow's gone up by about 1,800, £2,000 a month.
Okay, so that was your catalyst then to go full time
That
on property.
I was earning similar money at the time. You know, I didn't pay any tax when I was in the Merchant Navy, but you know, and I had all my travel expenses and stuff paid, so it was fairly cheap living. Unfortunately, I was away 2 weeks, home 2 weeks, and before that, I was away for a few months at a time, and I was in Iraq and Kuwait and all around the Middle East and the Mediterranean and stuff like that. So, yeah, I just said, look, here's an opportunity. I've got my wage covered, and I can go, and I've now got 40 hours a week or more
do
to try and do something. I did EPC training and got into joint venture as a letting agent.
Okay.
And then shortly afterwards left that because there was only 2 of us working and the other 2 weren't doing anything, and we were all sharing the profits. And I thought, that's not good.
That happens sometimes.
So I went off on my own, did my own thing, and I had a letting agency then until a couple of years ago, and we sold it.
Right.
And did loads of other things in the meantime.
Right,
But
come on.
yeah,
So
I mean, I think the crash was a catalyst for massive change for us.
Yeah. No, I agree, and that gives you that. So I'll ask you this one first, Mary. All right.
Yes.
Or maybe I should ask Chris first. In terms of husband and wife team, obviously Brenda and I are in the same boat, and we often discuss this. How challenging has that been in terms of, you know, either two scenarios? Scenario number one, where you both have a difference of opinion on a certain decision, which is natural.
Sure.
Or two, what was it like, or how did you deal when things weren't going well, and maybe you're in that financial situation where it was like, where do we go from here? Well, how did you work through that, or what was any key tips?
I think I suppose as we got older, we probably respect each other. Good points. You know, we're two different people. We're like chalk and cheese, really, I suppose. Aren't we, Chris?
Who's the chalk and who's the cheese? Don't answer that.
You know, we've all got different skills.
Yeah.
And I suppose we now, we don't challenge each other on each other's skills because we've got different things to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And Chris is super intelligent. I just find he's super intelligent, and I respect that. I'm probably more a people's person, and I'm a probably doer.
Yeah.
And I'm a repetitive doer. That probably drives Chris crazy, but Chris is more forward thinking, you know, up for a challenge.
Yeah.
But there has to be a balance.
Absolutely.
You know,
There
I'm
has to
probably
be.
more grounded. Yeah, it's been tough sometimes, you know. It has been tough when your back's up against the wall, and has been up against the wall a couple of times. I probably have fallen apart a little bit, and you probably picked me up and got me back on the tracking again.
Back on the treadmill again.
Yeah.
And from your perspective then?
Yeah, I mean, we went through a tough time back 2009, early 2010. You know, but it was a case of, I always thought that we would turn things around. You know, I was writing some notes there, but for a bit of content, and at one point we were 120 odd thousand pounds worth in bad debt. I'm not talking about mortgages here. I'm talking about credit cards and stuff. Or we had all these credit cards and personal loans that we're using to either fund deposits or refurbs, and all of a sudden our credit rating got wrecked, and we couldn't move this credit card debt onto another zero credit. So we were stuck with this, and you know, we were paying off loads of interest and very little capital on it, and we managed to, you know, we had to do a short sale in one house, which was probably the one that was in negative equity. We've had a couple of others, but they weren't too bad, and we've paid them down over time. But one in particular, we thought we'd refinanced it at the time because somebody was going to buy it off us, and it fell through, so we had to refinance to do some work on it. We were going to make 65 grand for doing nothing on that property. You know, just we got the keys, did nothing, and somebody a while later offered us 65 grand more, and then the crash happened, so we had to refinance it to do the work to get it. And long story short, we did a short sale on it. We're left with an unsecured debt on it, and managed to negotiate to get rid of that, plus all the credit cards and personal loans. And I was totaling up the other day, it was £122,000, and now it's all gone. Now I have a credit card that I use for my air miles and stuff.
Of course,
like
yeah.
You know, just stick it on the credit card.
That's a business process.
It's a business process,
as opposed to
and I have another credit card again that I use to pay for education things, to get points to convert them into air. So you know, I'm not averse to that stuff, but certainly at the time it was tough going. It was
definitely, people don't see that side of it for husband and wife. You know, so Brenda left work in about 2002. She worked for the Royal British Legion House Association, Clanmel Housing as it is now. So that was kind of her background. So she knew, you know, property management. But we set up a letting agent in about 2002 in Moira, and then when I come back from Iraq, and it's like, okay, property's going to be our full time. That's what's going to do property. So you're out there generating them enough for two wages, not just one wage.
Yeah.
You know, two kids, and the crash comes. And I remember literally going through the Belfast Telegraph looking for marketing jobs. Yeah. You know, because it's like, well, we've got a mortgage, you know, and that's tough whenever you're like, well, this is the dream. We do this. We're going to be, you know, we'll be able to pay off the house and all the rest of it. So it's definitely tough. And I've had a couple, and you know, Brenda was last. There's probably been 2 times in all that time where Brenda was really adamant. Don't do it. One was a overseas property in Cape Verde. And Brenda's like, no. I'm like, no, I'm doing it. And both of them went wrong. Both of them went south. It's funny, Mary, she never forgets that.
He's pulled up now and again.
I was looking at stuff in Cyprus at the time and Florida, and they never went ahead for one reason or another, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't. Yeah. The good thing about it at the time was the pound was that strong. It was like $2.30, something like that, to the pound, as opposed to now it's less than $1.30 to the pound. but I'm glad they didn't go ahead. But other stuff happened to us, and you know, how do we work as a husband and wife team? Mary was working in nursing up until 2016, but cutting down her hours. I was working away, I had other things to occupy myself. Now, you know, since 2016, we've both been at home, but Mary's got her stuff. She's got a wee bit of serviced accommodation to look after.
Right, okay.
You know, coaching and mentoring people, and you know, so we're not stuck in the house continuously all the time.
Yeah.
I do energy surveys and obviously football club stuff, and you know,
projects,
and we're doing some projects. We're not on top of each other for the projects either, because we've sort of got a project manager in place well, the builder takes care of a lot of the stuff, and Mary just goes in and keeps an eye on things. So yeah, we don't live in each other's pockets.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I think it's great though, Chris, that you've kind of come through a journey where it's good times, not so good times, back to good times again.
Yeah, yeah.
Because so many people go on the courses, see all the glitter,
glamour,
and you know, remortgage the house and spend fortune on education, and before you know it, then trouble, and then you know, split marriages, divorces.
And
that pressure.
I mean, we know people that have spent an awful lot of money, and they need to make it work. I never felt that I was in that position. I felt as if I had to make it work because I left work.
Yeah.
But I had no other means of income. I had the EPCs, but it paid a wee bit. And the letting agency, it made a wee bit until I went on my own. But at no point did I ever think that I had to make it work because I'd invested so much money in education. Probably because I didn't care and put it in credit cards. And I was a bit blasé about it.
It didn't. Yeah, the pain didn't feel the same because it's not the bank balance. It's just on a
it's a few quid here and there. But so we you know, I'm glad that it happened because the lessons that we learned from going through all that, all the pain and all those processes, is invaluable, and we wouldn't be doing what
we're doing now,
or
we wouldn't be able to help people because you know, we're helping people. You know, it's taken us a long time to get, and we've gone from ups to downs to ups again. But you know, I look at people now, and you know, we can take them on a process that it's going to be much shorter, and they're going to avoid the pain that we've went through. Yeah. They're not going to make the mistakes.
That experience is so valuable in the world of property, you know, for sure. So in terms of juggling other things, then you mentioned obviously Ballymena United Football Club, chairman of an Irish Premier League club. How long have you been on the committee there, or the board?
I've been on the board 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so you're well.
2020, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. During COVID, anyway.
Okay, from there.
So and that was difficult because there wasn't a lot of meetings going on, as I'm sure you know. COVID put a stop to that, and then there's been a lot of change at the club too. There's people moved on. A lot of long-term people that were on have moved on, and it's. I think the board at the minute, there's not one person that was on. I'm the longest serving board member.
Right, and 4 years.
Like three and a half years.
That's actually quite unusual for football clubs.
Yeah. You know, so this year there's a few people that were there before. You know, one person has come, one or two people have come back on, but the long-term people have gone. So it's a sort of a new guard, if you like.
Yeah, no, that works sometimes as well. And
sometimes you need fresh eyes to look.
No, shut it out. Same in every walks of life, you know. Well, when football gets mentioned, do you just switch off, or do you enjoy football?
Mary likes to know what's going on.
No, my wife Brenda is like, you know, obviously playing Irish League, and she would have followed me watching games right from Amateur League up into Irish Premier League and all the rest of it. But after I became a coach, that was her. Didn't want to do football, you know. So I married a footballer, I didn't marry a football coach, and she just very little interest. And if you are, and you come home and you're maybe, you know, there's been a meeting or something's happening, and you're in the kitchen, you know, it's like, David, I don't really care. Just in a jokey way, but a joke with a jag.
Mary's the opposite. She wants to know what's going on. A wee bit of nosiness. I don't know.
No, it's fascinating.
Or there's a phone call. What was that about?
But for me, anyway, I don't know if it's the same for you. For me, football is my release. Yeah. When I was in business, you know, and then obviously was in the military for a while, but just when I was under pressure with life and pressure financially, to go out and play football. You walked out the pitch on the Saturday, the whistle blew, you forgot about everything else in life for that 90-minute period. And it's slightly less now, but still, I'm sure you're the same. Once you get there, whatever else is going on at the club, whatever else is going on with the team, good and bad, and it's all cycles. When the whistle blows for that 90 minutes when you're watching the game, it's like a different world.
Yeah,
I find it almost like refreshing, and it's like it rejuvenates me for the week ahead in some ways.
I mean, it's something new for me. I've been a football fan all my life, but never on the inside of a football club.
Yeah.
And my brother had coached the team, managed the team, whatever you want to call it, at a sort of Saturday morning league level. And I used to hear him going on about, you know, having to deal with people, and you think, just tell them to sort of bugger off. You know, it's having to put up with people and deal with people, and it's only on the inside of it that you're realising, you know, dealing with, not necessarily dealing with players directly, but
player issues still land on your plate eventually.
You know, and contracts, and he's leaving, he's coming in, and you know, budgets, and managers and coaching staff, and even, you know, board and committee, especially at a volunteer club.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
as you know,
commercial, driving revenue, new revenue streams, all of that is.
I was speaking to a well-known local TV person there via email. I had a coffee with him a while ago, and he's come up with a big Ballymena supporter, and he's come up with a few ideas, and I'm looking through them. They're all brilliant ideas, but is he trying to get them implemented? Because you're asking people to
do more
volunteer
time
and devote their time, and that's tough. When someone's not getting paid, it's very hard to. It's like pushing a rope.
Okay, so in terms of property, then, what is your current strategy? What is it you're looking for in your own sort of portfolio?
Well, within our portfolio, we've got nearly everything that's possible to do here in Northern Ireland. So we started off with buy-to-lets.
Okay.
Then we have a HMO, and then we went into doing developments, small developments, and then that led us into service accommodation, because instead of flipping some of the developments, we kept some of them and they became service accommodation. And then, you know, we started up Belfast Property Meet 13 years ago, and then people asked us for help and coaching, and it's very hard to put a figure on coaching someone one-to-one, and it's time a lot of time is involved in coaching somebody, so we instead thought we'd do group education, and that's where our Property Success University came out of. So we've been doing that 7 years, and it's gone from strength to strength, and that's what I love. I just love taking someone that hasn't a property to getting their first property, taking their first step, getting their first property, and then starting to grow their portfolio. My passion is small developments and teaching, really. And at the moment, we're doing a six bed ensuite HMO in Belfast. And we're nearly through that.
That's nearly finished, and we've still agreed on potential 10-bed, 10-bathroom HMO, or it's more likely to be 2 5-bedrooms. It's easier to work with if you understand the HMO sort of rules and regulations. It's better to do 2 5s than it is to do a 10.
110, okay.
So that'll be the next thing we move on to. As Mary said, we're always on the lookout for a small development, you know, 5 or 6 apartments. I'd like to do an apart hotel at some point. I had a chance a couple of years ago, but there was a few things wrong with the title and trying to get finance at the time. Even angel finance would have been tough because the title wasn't 100%. So we were advised not to do it. You know, the HMOs we're doing at the minute, high-end stuff that will have big cash flow. And we're at an age, obviously, where retirement is just slightly over the horizon. It's not that far away. You know.
Years away yet, surely. No.
Well, certainly pensionable age.
Yeah, you got to be thinking of it.
Yeah. So we've been, you know, hitting our pensions hard, trying to maximise what we can put into our pensions, and we've started just in the process of starting a SAS pension.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
that we
Very
can,
good.
The money that we have within our businesses, we can put that into it and lend it back to ourselves and create extra money for our pensions. So that's the intention, sort of.
That's kind of the strategy on it.
You know,
you mentioned finance there, and that's the one I'll definitely get a bit of a conversation around. So we're obviously the property funding podcast.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing for last sort of 6 years really is primarily working in the equity space. where I had an FCA regulated platform.
Yeah.
I was FCA approved person, and we were able to host crowdfunding raises where people could literally pull equity investment. So obviously we've moved out with prop funders now into more the whole debt and equity. So Northern Ireland, you're in that space of HMO, you're doing, so how do you find the funding market here? I suppose first of all, how would you normally source your funding? So that the example you just gave there, what would be your normal go-to method for debt and equity?
That's changed. The first sort of decent project that we did that brought us in a bit of cash flow was a 5-bed HMO, and I found a joint venture partner that was willing to fund it. So I suppose he was kind of like an angel, but he was involved. So he
first charge lending. So he took a first charge over the property, did he?
Yeah, well, we actually had an option to buy it, a kind of an assisted sale type scenario, and then we decided, well, why don't we buy this ourselves? So he put the money up to buy it and to do the refurb. We put a few quid in, but it wasn't, a few thousand, but not much. Yeah. And then he couldn't get a mortgage, and we had to get a mortgage host in place, and so he sort of bought the property, and but we put it in someone else's name so that we could get a mortgage after 6 months for him to get his money back. And then he's become an angel investor because he's busy in his job and doesn't have a lot of time. He's also a property investor, but no time, so he became an angel. First development we did, 6 apartments. We kind of got the money together from a lot of different angel investors and a bit of bridging finance. And over the years we've used a mixture of both bridging and some angel investment. But now we've got to the point where we're kind of funding our own project, at least to buy it, and maybe using an angel to fund the refurb, or use the angel to buy it
and use the refurb. Yeah.
And of course the plan is to get to the point where we can fund everything. We're looking at funding a few things for some of our mentees in PSU as well. Something similar to yourself, but probably slightly different in that we have the people, we know the projects, we know the areas. So from an underwriting point of view, we know what they're doing, and we know what they're capable of. So so we're looking at that, because we've funded on a 1-to-1 basis, I think maybe 3 or 4 times now. It might be just money for a bit of a refurb. Or
but
like
it's
and someone we know, we funded a couple of flats development in England as well. So so we're looking at that. So
it's got better. The facilities has got better. It's not great here in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of the lending market, how do you find it in terms of options?
Bridging's hard.
It's improving.
Yeah, bridging's hard, very expensive. Bridging, and you have to jump through so many hoops, and they'll only give you a certain percentage of what you want.
Yeah.
Regarding commercial finance, has got a little bit better, a little bit more products on the market. Regarding mortgages within a limited company, there's probably only 2 available here in Northern Ireland. So there's still room for growth and improvement. But I admire people I think people in Northern Ireland have to be admired for getting involved in property and making it work. Compared to people across the water that has so much opportunity. It's
much easier. More choices, much more, better rates.
Absolutely.
Less fees and all of that.
All of the above.
Less legislation around, especially around planning with permitted development.
Yes, that's
you hear people here spending money on permitted development courses. It's only when they've parted with their cash they realise permitted development is different in Northern Ireland. It doesn't work. And if you're going to spend that sort of money to get taught that kind of stuff, you're going to have to go over there and do it, because it doesn't work here. So it's is it a good thing? I think it certainly makes us a wee bit more resilient in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
But I also think it's key that you when you're looking for advice, that you certainly find people like ourselves that are doing it, or have done it, or are doing it, because there's a lot of people out there pretending they're doing stuff, and on the surface it looks as if they are, but when you sort of peel back the covers, things.
Peel back the layers of the onion. It's not all it seems to be sometimes.
It's not all it seems to be.
I agree with that fully. Do you feel that there's a gap still in the Northern Ireland in terms of lending options? So, someone starting out, they get to even a buy-to-let, but a small HMO refurb where they want to buy something and then do it up, whatever they want to do with it. The lending choices at that bridging level and then development finance is still very limited in your experience.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely scope for it. That's what you're doing, and it's certainly there are people out there that'll take you up on your offer. I know it's not always as straightforward. People just think that they come to you and it's like the money's there. Obviously, there's a few boxes to tick.
There always is, isn't there?
People have to be careful. It's someone else's money somewhere along the line, and you don't just give it out for anything. But certainly, it's certainly welcome that people are coming into the space now. It has made, as I say, it has made people have to work a wee bit harder, and when people work a wee bit harder, they usually work a wee bit smarter. Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a very good point, actually.
When things become free and easy, like in 2006, 2007, what happened? Every man and his dog was a landlord.
They jumped on the band. Everyone jumped on the band.
That's a fair. I remember a guy saying to me along the lines of he knew it was time to stop buying when he got into a taxi one day and the taxi man said, "Many properties have you? I have 5 or 6, and he said, "Hey, hang on, there's something wrong here. There's something fundamentally wrong with the market on that front."
Absolutely.
Well, you mentioned education there and the fact that maybe some people are buy courses and it's not maybe suitable for them, or they don't maybe know the difference between, say, Northern Ireland and over in England, Scotland and Wales. But at the same time, you've also alluded to the fact that education has played a big part in your journey.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate that? I mean, obviously everything in life is good and bad, but what type of education and property that you've done has made such a positive impact? And then what ones do you think that perhaps people should, well, not say stay away from them, but think very, very hard before they did them? And we obviously won't mention any names as such, but in terms of the types of courses.
Yeah, certainly if you're going to spend money on permitted development and you live in Northern Ireland and you think it's going to work in Northern Ireland, it's not.
It's not,
It's not. Yeah. I mean, permitted development in Northern Ireland means building a 3 metre by 3 metre extension in your backyard, and maybe not needing planning, but you're still going to need to follow some sort of rules and regulations. You're certainly not going to be able to find an empty pub somewhere in Belfast and convert it into flats and tell the planning office what you're doing, and they're going, that's fine. That's not happening. In fact, it's probably going to be harder because of the sort of water and sewage reports that they're looking for, and parking surveys and all this kind. So it's a wee bit more of a hassle. But where was I going with that?
I think my advice to anyone that's maybe thinking about investing in property or getting some education is to find people that are really doing it.
Yeah, that's a good
that
point.
are on the ground and they're getting their hands dirty and they're doing it.
Yeah.
And ask them where they got their knowledge from, or who they see as the go-to person that's doing that strategy that they want to do. I just find people look at the internet and social media and like what they see. It is the era now. Everyone likes, the influencers and stuff like that. But really, they're really not the right person to be going. You need to go to the people that aren't shouting about it, that are actually working really hard behind the scenes and quietly getting on and have grown amazing portfolios. So I just find that people don't even talk about tax, don't talk about what's possible. Where are you going to find this money? Have you got this money? What kind of taxpayer are you? What structure you need to sort out before you even go to view properties. All that, they are major things to me before you buy your first property. But whatever strategy will suit you financially and tax-wise, then find the people that are on the ground that are actually doing it, and ask them where they got their education from, or who influenced them.
Who was their mentor if they had one.
That's really the grassroots of it all.
I think when you go to you go to an event like ours, the Belfast Property Meet. There's enough people in the room
Absolutely.
to ask and get the right answers.
100%.
And I'm not just talking about ourselves. I'm talking about other people in the room. 'Cause
Yeah,
you can see
yeah.
who's doing stuff. You can ask them the questions. And Northern Ireland's a small place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people are a wee bit economical with the truth, it doesn't take long for the truth to come out.
Yes,
Come out.
that's
So
that's a fair
I think
point.
people need to read between the lines, or look under the covers, or peel back the onion, whatever euphemism you want to use, and challenge people in what
Yeah,
they're doing.
yeah.
We one of our values that we talk about is being open and honest about stuff.
Yeah.
And we're happy for people to come and see what we're doing.
Yeah.
To discuss it in great detail, because we don't
Hide anything.
We don't hide anything. We
Yeah.
don't sell the dream.
Yeah.
We like to be open and honest
Yeah.
and give people a clear picture, because sometimes a fool and his money are easily parted,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when someone's selling the dream. You mentioned Cape Verde and stuff earlier
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I'm about to go there. I'm about to go here. You follow the you get sold the dream.
No, you do,
go for it.
and they, whether it's different characters, we're always looking for it'll work out. I'll find a way of making it work.
Yeah.
And
the shiny penny thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, well, you look at the fundamental. I think that's what I learned, because I left sort of doing property in Northern Ireland in like 2009, overseas property, then marketing UK stock over in Asia, high-end portfolio building. So I did nothing in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
I looked up until about the last 6-7 months. I'm kind of back in this space again, and as I look at the journey and looking back, it's like, it doesn't matter where you're dealing in property. It doesn't matter property type. It doesn't matter what location. There are property fundamentals, and if you get the fundamentals right, then you'll not go too far wrong. Yeah, there'll be interest rates will rise and fall. Inflation will go up and down. House prices will go up and down. There'll be those economic factors that'll influence.
Yeah.
But if the fundamentals are there, you won't go too far wrong over time.
No.
Anybody can buy a portfolio if they've got the money or got access to the money. Not everybody can manage a portfolio.
That's another good point. That's another good point.
A lot of people have got the skills to do one thing, but not the skills to manage it. It's the same with building business. Sometimes it can be easy to get a business started, and it's all because you're all excited and all at the beginning, and it's great, and you can see, to go from 0 to 1 is a huge improvement. To go from 1 customer to 10 is a
yes,
bigger
another big jump
improvement.
again. Yeah.
You get to a certain point where it starts to get harder and harder and harder to get customers.
Yeah.
So building it can sometimes look easy and feel great and exciting. It's maintaining it and growing it beyond that. That's hence why a lot of businesses fail between 0 and 5 years.
Yeah, no, I think that you made a very good point. Yeah, it's,
you sort of get to the point where you develop a new set of problems.
Yeah.
I'm going to scale stuff. I need more staff. You get staff in. Well, there's another set of problems.
Yeah, exactly. The financials and all of that, it becomes a real difficulty to, as you say, to go beyond that first 2-3 years. What cracks me up when it comes to the education market, and I've done a fair bit in the education space and mentoring and speaking at different events around the world and things like that on crowdfunding. It's those who are sold courses that are above where they are in their journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I meet people sometimes at events, and they've been on maybe a permitted development course, they've been on a lease option course, they've been on a rent to rent course. And then you go, well, how many properties you got? Well, I'm hoping to buy my first one next year. And you go like, what?
Yeah.
You spend 25-30 grand and you still haven't bought your first one. It's like doing the last year of your degree before you've even done your levels. And I know on the one hand it's up to the individual to pay, and people just offer their courses. But I do think there are some out there who have a strategy to literally fleece people.
Yeah.
They know fine rightly that this person paying this money is never really going to get the value out of the course they're about to take.
No.
Yeah.
They know that,
but
they take the money anyway.
Yeah.
And that annoys me.
Yeah, but again, we talk about being open and honest, and what we charge for the stuff we do, like the PSU thing, the value you get for the money that we charge
is massive.
Is massive.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be charging tons and tons more than that if we didn't think we could offer tons and tons more value.
Yeah.
But as you say, there are people out there charge you thousands and thousands of pounds. They're sort of selling you a can of Coke for the price of a bottle of champagne.
Yeah,
know.
no, exactly that. And you hit another interesting point there, which I think is important to make. Your type of stuff that you do, as many others do, there's a mentorship element to it.
Yeah.
It's not give me, £1,100 for a weekend, and then there's a couple of
See you
emails, or
later.
you're now in a WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
As you say, you guys
It's
are
the continued
upfront.
support.
Every month, people know where they can
Yeah,
find
yeah,
you
yeah.
because every month you're at Windsor Park doing your
Well,
doing your stadium.
As I say,
So that allows for mentorship, and it allows for that trust to be built, relation to be trust.
Credibility.
yeah.
And when things do go wrong, you haven't got you're there.
Yeah,
Come and
yeah,
see
yeah,
us,
yeah,
and we'll
yeah. No,
work. And we'll.
100%.
So that's an important part, I think, of the education space, is the difference between just a simple course
Yeah.
and actual hand-holding mentorship.
And I think that's down to our values. you
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
it is down
You
to
know,
our
Yeah.
values.
we have got 6 core values, and what you've just discussed as part of it, guiding and supporting people,
Yeah.
and not leave. We come back from England having spent a lot of money, and what's next?
Yeah.
Who do we go to? Who do we? Because they didn't have the WhatsApp groups or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
follow-ups.
Yeah.
And it was just take your money, give you the education, bye, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And that was tough.
That was really
Valuable but tough, and,
Yeah.
and probably then as a result of that we started Belfast Property Meet,
Yeah.
because there was a gap there.
On that, yeah, so that's exactly what I was going to come to, just to finish off, is the Belfast Property Meet. So as we said, it's the oldest and the largest property networking event in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
You have stood the test of time. You have been there. You just get on with it. You've grown it, and you obviously must enjoy doing that.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think, what we've grown is an amazing community. And we're so lucky. We found our partners. So, the whole team is there. Everyone that you need in property is present, or we
As
have
part of the group,
availability
Yeah.
to it. And also the people within the room, they are property investors.
Yeah.
The majority of them
Yeah.
are. You get people coming, which is amazing, new people that want to get involved in property. But there's so much knowledge and experience in
Yeah.
that room. It's unbelievable. And they're lovely people, and they're willing to share their knowledge and experience. And I feel it's very unique, and
I
that's
think
just...
just as a wee final thing, we spoke to a woman recently who maybe a divorcee, so maybe spend a bit of time on her own, came to Belfast Property Meet and was like, I'm not sure what to expect here, because she thought it was going to be a room full of men, and she's just been divorced, and probably the last thing she wants to listen to a load of men or be in a room full of a load of men. And she said she just felt so completely different from what she expected. It was so welcoming, and just a nice place to be, and people were genuine and open, and that's again one of the values we try to sort of transmit to people.
And I mean, you have achieved that. I mean, I say I hadn't been anywhere near networking events. I think I might have went to 1 or 2 just before COVID, but I had done nothing in Northern Ireland for probably 10 or 12 years, literally, after COVID then, and went to one of your events last year now, I suppose. And it was nice to just sat in the back of the room, just watching. One, it struck me how few people I knew, because I suppose the people that I was involved with 14, 15 years ago, whatever, very, very few of them in the room, 1 or 2. And then there was just the environment, because I was speaking at events all over England, networking events and stuff, and a lot of them are really, they're good, but they're very commercially driven. You've got 1 speaker, 2 speakers who invariably has taken the booking because, he wants to impart, I'm not saying, because I've been there as a speaker, you want to impart some knowledge, but fundamentally you're there because you want to change your bank balance. You want to sell a course, you want to sell the service, whereas you kind of host it. People get passing on their knowledge, but there's a different dynamic to it. It's very much a group of a community.
There's no hard sell. There's no, we tell people about Property Success University, and maybe somebody there, but, if you're looking for some answers or a discussion, there's my details, give me a call. But there is not, it's not, rush to the back of the room and spend on our weekend course. There's none of that.
But I think that stood you in good stead, though, because you have created genuine, you used the word, Mary, community.
Oh, it's a community.
And that was a good way I would describe it.
It
is and listen, there are other good events out there. We're not, none of us are saying there's not. But I just think the community you guys have created is a testament to, one, your stickability. If that's an English word still in the dictionary, I don't know, but stickability at just being there month in, month out, providing that place for people to go. And I think that's why you've been so successful, or helped be so successul. And crystal ball, what happens to Mary and Chris in the next 5 years in your property journey?
We're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, I remember doing a presentation about, you know, a countdown, and I thought at the end of it, do we retire? No, I would doubt it.
I don't think so. I think giving back is huge for both of us. You know, we've like raised over 100,000 for the Children's Hospital since we started Property Meet.
Yeah.
Well, that's important.
Huge. So giving back for us is very important. You know, you give back to the club, football club. You're part of Rotary, and part of the hospice. You know, so we give back, and we give over and above to our community as well. So I don't think we'll ever stop that.
No,
you know,
no, it's key. I mean, you see a lot of people when they retire, they've nothing to do. That'll not happen to us.
No.
It certainly won't. And I mean, it's not as if we retire and go travelling around the world for the rest of our lives. Don't want to do that, because you don't appreciate it as much when you do it too much.
True.
So, you know, the fact that we'll do a little bit, do a bit of travelling, do a bit more, do a bit of travelling, but you know, we work 7 days a week.
That's in some aspect.
In some aspect, you know, there's never a day where we don't open the laptop and
do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
if I fast forward 10 years, there's not going to be a helicopter coming onto the pitch at Windsor Park,
not.
and Chris and Mary step out of the helicopter.
Me and Chris live in a little bungalow, a shallow bungalow in Grace Hill, and we love where we live, and we'll be carried out of there.
Very good.
That's just the people we are, and it wouldn't matter.
Don't need a big house.
No. What do we need a big house for? to clean even more.
Yeah, well, listen, that's actually a really good place to
Not saying I wouldn't
end.
need a helicopter to maybe go to an Irish Cup final.
I was going to say, yeah, if Ballymena get there again. Well, you've been in a few in recent years, to be fair.
Three and four.
Just didn't quite get there, which was a phenomenal achievement, to be fair.
Lost the ball, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but a wee bit of luck along the line. We could have been sitting with two of them, but
we'll hopefully you get a bit of luck on Friday night. That's another whole story. But I think just the way you've ended there in terms of happy and content, you know.
We are very happy. And
I know
we've got great friends, and you know.
That's what it's about too. It's having the right people around you.
Yeah.
You know, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and sometimes I find when I hear too much negativity, I start to withdraw from that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You know, be around people that inspire you, motivate you, and share the same values as you.
No, I think that's a really good place in terms of just because so often the stories on podcasts are, you know, the bigger cars, the bigger houses, the travel, and you guys are saying, you know what, even if we continue to be as successful as you are, very content with where you are in life and enjoying life and friendships.
As long as we've got our health and you know we have good people around us, that's all that's important.
Massive.
Really,
no, listen,
you know.
what a great place to end the podcast. Listen, I really thank you, Mary, for coming along. Chris, my friend, thank you very much indeed. Hopefully you enjoyed that.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Being here, so
good.
that's
another
episode done.